He lived like a janitor, but left millions behind. On the surface, Ronald Read was invisible. Just a quiet old man with a stooped back, a polite nod, and the kind of presence that slipped past you in a grocery store aisle. He walked slowly, often alone, with a slight limp and a folded newspaper always tucked under his arm. His flannel shirts were faded. His jackets were held together with safety pins. His boots were older than some of the teenagers who bagged his groceries. In a small Vermont town, where everyone knows everyone, Ronald was simply that nice older gentleman who kept to himself. He was the man who pumped your gas with a smile. The one sweeping the floor at JCPenney, humming softly, completely unbothered by the world rushing past him. But after he passed away in 2014, the world didn't just notice Ronald Read, it was stunned by him. Because Ronald Read wasn't just a janitor. He was a secret millionaire. And not just a little wealthy. He left behind more than $8 million. That's right. The man who clipped coupons, reused tea bags, and patched his own clothes with needle and thread, had quietly built a financial empire. And what he did with that fortune would change lives. When the news broke, neighbors were speechless. "Ron? That Ron?" they asked. "The one with the old Toyota? The one who brought peanut butter sandwiches to work every day?" Yes. That Ron. These are the stories that built men. This is King of Tales. Before we reveal how he did it, and why no one saw it coming, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. We share powerful true stories that challenge perceptions, reveal hidden greatness, and remind us that character, not appearance, defines a person's worth. Now, let's go back to where it all started. Ronald James Read was born in 1921, in the rural hills of Dummerston, Vermont. His childhood was shaped by scarcity. The Great Depression wasn't just a period in a history book, it was his lived reality. His family was poor, and not in the abstract sense. They were poor in the way that meant going to bed hungry. Poor in the way that meant patching the same shirt over and over again because there was no other option. His father was a farmer and carpenter. Honest work. Long hours. Little reward. There were no savings, no vacations, and certainly no financial cushion. But there was something else, values. Ronald learned early that money doesn't define you. Work does. Effort does. How you treat people does. He would walk over 4 miles to get to high school, sometimes in bitter cold, through snow that reached his knees. His shoes were worn, his fingers often numb, but he never complained. He didn't ask for help. He just moved forward. He became the first in his family to graduate from high school. That might not sound extraordinary today, but in 1930s Vermont, for a poor farm boy, it was monumental. Then came World War II. Ronald enlisted and served with quiet dignity as a military police officer in North Africa and Italy. He didn't chase glory. He didn't write letters home about heroic battles. He just did what was asked of him, with discipline, focus, and a steady heart. And when he came back, he didn't boast about his service. He returned to his values. He returned to work. For 25 years, Ronald worked as a gas station attendant and mechanic. He got up early. Stayed late. Grease covered his hands, oil stained his pants, but his reputation was spotless. He was honest, dependable, and always had time for others. Most people would have retired after that. But not Ronald. In his 60s, he took another job, as a janitor at the local JCPenney. Not because he needed the money, but because he believed in staying active, useful, and grounded. Because to him, dignity wasn't found in what you did, but how you did it. Day after day, he pushed his mop through the same aisles. He smiled at customers who never really saw him. He picked up after kids who never said thank you. And all the while, he was building something. Not a house. but a legacy. Because while Ronald was sweeping floors, he was also sweeping through pages of financial reports. He didn't spend his evenings watching sitcoms. He read. And not novels. Financial journals. The Wall Street Journal. Company earnings statements. Investment books worn from use. He taught himself how to invest with discipline and precision. He didn't gamble on the stock market. He studied it. He focused on blue-chip companies. Reliable. Profitable. Long-standing. He bought shares of companies like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, CVS, and JP Morgan Chase. And then he held them. He didn't sell during crashes. He didn't celebrate during booms. He just reinvested his dividends. Patiently. Year after year. Quietly. His investments grew. Slowly at first. Then steadily. Then explosively. But he never changed. Same car. Same coat. Same lunch. He packed peanut butter sandwiches. Brought apples in wax paper. Sometimes, a single cookie. He sat alone at lunch breaks, reading financial reports like scripture, while others talked about sports or the weather. To his co-workers, Ronald was friendly, but a mystery. They never heard him talk about money. He never offered advice. He never hinted at what he was doing. Because for Ronald, the point wasn't money. The point was control, freedom, and impact. And when he passed away in his modest Vermont home in 2014, the truth came to light. Ronald Read had built a portfolio worth over $8 million. No one, not his friends, not his stepchildren, not his barber, had the slightest clue. And what he did with it? He gave it away. Millions went to the local hospital that had treated him and others with dignity. Over $1 million went to the public library, where he had spent hours reading, learning, building the mind that built the fortune. The rest went to local causes, people, and institutions that mattered to him, not for credit, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Ronald Read proved something that day. He proved that appearances lie. He proved that discipline beats flash. And he proved that you don't need wealth to build a legacy, you need values. When Ronald Read's will was read, it stunned even the most seasoned estate attorneys. His portfolio, quietly nurtured over decades, had ballooned to a staggering $8 million. But it wasn't the amount that shocked people, it was where the money went. Ronald left $4.8 million to Brattleboro Memorial Hospital, a place that had treated him numerous times. Not in luxury, but with dignity. Not with extravagance, but with compassion. The staff, who remembered him as the quiet man who waited patiently in the lobby with a folded newspaper, were overwhelmed. None had suspected that this humble figure was one of the hospital's most generous benefactors. He gave another $1.2 million to the local library, the same library where he had spent countless hours reading financial newspapers, researching investments, and feeding his lifelong hunger for knowledge. Other donations were made too. Quiet gifts to organizations and causes that had touched him, moved him, or aligned with his values. Not once did Ronald ask for a plaque. Not once did he want a building named after him. He wanted impact, not credit. One friend said it best, he was a very nice, very quiet man. You'd never suspect he was a millionaire. He used to drive this old, beat-up car. That was just wrong. And that was exactly how Ronald wanted it. Because Ronald Read didn't live for appearances. He lived by principle. He believed in protecting what matters. In investing in the future, not just his, but everyone's. And above all, he believed that wealth, when used wisely, could shape a better world. Ronald's story isn't just about money. It's about mindset. It's about resisting the pressure to impress. It's about choosing values over vanity. And It's about leaving behind more than dollars, it's about leaving behind direction. You see, most people will never become millionaires. But that's not the point. The point is, you don't need a high income to build a meaningful legacy. You need discipline. You need consistency. And you need a reason. Ronald's reason wasn't fame. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't even his own comfort. His reason was others. When he gave to the hospital, he gave to people he'd never meet, patients whose lives would be saved by machines they couldn't afford. When he gave to the library, he gave to children who needed a quiet place to dream. And when he died, he gave every one of us a reminder. That greatness doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes, it comes with quiet footsteps, oil-stained hands, and a folded newspaper under the arm. So what can we learn from Ronald Read? First, know your values. Ronald didn't spend on what didn't matter. He focused on what did. Second, start early and stay the course. Compound interest rewards the patient. Third, be generous. Your money can build hospitals, fund libraries, and change futures. Fourth, never judge by appearance. The janitor you pass today might be tomorrow's greatest philanthropist. And lastly, don't wait. Take one step today. Learn. Save. Invest. Choose purpose over pride. And write your own legacy, just like Ronald did. If this story moved you, even a little, subscribe to the channel. Here, we uncover the stories that matter, stories that remind us that anyone, from any background, can change everything. Share this with someone who needs a reminder. The quiet ones might just leave the loudest legacy. And if you want to protect your legacy like Ronald did, download our free guide, The Legacy Shield. It's a simple blueprint to help you safeguard your money, your future, and your family, no matter your income. Click the link in the description to join our private newsletter and start building real security today. Because some losses arrive without warning, and by then, it's too late to prepare.